First, we'll open your eyes. Then we'll open your minds. We'll pull the wool from over your eyes and give you a peek behind the curtain to show you the world for what it is and what it might be. This is Beyond Normal Views.
I'm Alex, and I hate it when I'm singing along to a song and the artist gets the words wrong. I also hate when people steal my ideas before I think of them. It's cute how people tell me to go fuck myself like I was asking for their permission.
And I'm James, disappointed optimist, but optimistic nihilist. Did you know that at the atomic level, there is no such thing as physical contact, only interactions of forces? Everything you touch, everything you feel is an illusion. There is no solid matter.
So what happens when I touch myself? Alrighty. Now on to some WTF news, because, we are living in a WTF country and a WTF world. What the fuck? This story is a couple of weeks old. A Layton police officer in northern Utah may have had his lemonade spiked with THC and meth by an 18-year-old Subway employee. The police department has viewed the restaurant's surveillance tape, which reveals the worker making the drink, leaving the frame of vision with an unknown object in his hand for a long moment, and then returning to frame and giving the officer his drink. Snopes reports that Officer Clint Bobrowski described to local media how the officer was acting at the station after drinking the spiked drink. He would have thoughts, but his body wouldn't react to it. So if he was trying to move his arm wouldn't move when he thought it should. He was having a hard time maintaining focus. He was having a hard time maintaining his body. His body was jerking. And for a trained police officer watching him, it was everything I've seen in people who abuse illegal narcotics.
Okay. I don't have, love for the police and how they act and the way that they are in this country, but what a fucked up thing to do to any person.
Yeah.
Like, the guy wants, where was he? He wants to get his burger and his Coke and go to lunch. This is...
It was at a Subway, and
yeah.
They actually frequent that Subway a lot, that police department, and now they're pretty much afraid to go out to eat anywhere, and they're like, I think we're going to take a sack lunch now. It's mean.
This is how you get the police to shoot you.
Yeah.
Every little instance like this, we see all of the... it goes the other way. We have all of the news coverage of every time a black man is shot, no matter what the situation is, the news absolutely blows it up. But you have the same turnaround here when people start attacking cops. And it creates this environment of panic and fear. Now you have a nervous police force. Nervous cops. Itchy trigger fingers. You're causing the problems that we're trying to solve. Stop it.
You could just say, I want to see you put the Coke in. Nope. Put the Coke down!
Man, if I was a cop, I wouldn't be eating out in this particular environment either. Of course, I wouldn't be a cop because I don't want to get shot at.
Alright, some more crazy news. Cincinnati, Ohio. A woman faces charges after police says she stole a running ambulance parked outside a hospital and drove home after she was discharged. Lisa Carr, age 43, was taken into custody several minutes later after a short, low-speed pursuit. Mrs. Carr stated that she took the vehicle because she missed the last bus. An ambulance driver flagged down Cincinnati police.
Hold it in anymore.
And reported his vehicle stolen outside Deaconess Hospital off Straight Street shortly after he dropped off a patient and then went inside around 11 p.m. Carr, who was discharged from the hospital, saw the Ford E450 ambulance running and just hopped in, the police said. She embarked on the 20-minute drive to her Meredith Drive home, located 9.6 miles from the hospital, traveling at a low rate of speed below the posted limit. Police said that they were able to track the ambulance down through GPS, and after a short pursuit, took car into custody outside her residence once she parked. Can you imagine if they had like a helicopter on that and it was like watching the OJ chase?
Well, it seemed like she was at least kind of responsible about her driving. Again, just people have no sense. Where's your head at where you think that I missed the bus, better steal this ambulance is an appropriate response to your problem?
It didn't say why she was in the hospital. She might have been drugged and just not thinking straight. It's like, I missed the bus though, maybe I'll just take this home and then I'll call 911 and tell them I got your ambulance.
If you're in that kind of state, you're not allowed to drive yourself home. I've had surgeries at the hospital, and I was, maybe it wasn't something as intense as surgery, but the doctor tell you you're not allowed to drive home. You have, somebody has to come in and sign you out.
Yeah, I don't work at that hospital. I don't know how things go at that hospital.
That's right. You used to work at a hospital.
Yes, I used to work in surgery.
So is that how that works? Because I remember on the surgeries that I had was when I was going in, my wife had to come with me and sign her name right behind it, and she had to actually be there. And because we had to drive separately that morning. She had to get our son off to school. And yeah, I wasn't allowed to sign in until she was there present.
I had 3 surgeries myself, and it was the same thing. Somebody had to be with me.
Yeah. So it didn't say what she was in there for, but wow, just no sense. And speaking of Cincinnati, the Cincinnati Zoo has made probably one of the worst mistakes that they possibly could have made. As our audience knows, I live on the internet, and Harambe memes are a thing, and they are hilarious. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Is Harambe a gorilla?
Harambe was the gorilla that got shot a month or 2 ago.
Oh, the one that was trying to save the baby.
Yeah, trying to throw the kid around like a rag doll? Yeah, that's the one.
Oh. In which there was a story of somebody fell into the gorilla pit and the gorilla was protecting a baby. Separate story.
No, it's the same. It's the same story. That gorilla was not trying to protect that kid.
Oh,
that gorilla was holding it by the leg and tearing ass through the field, dragging it behind it. There's a lot of emotion and a lot of upset over the story. I have my own personal opinions about the reasons why people are going ape over Harambe. Why people are losing their minds over this gorilla dying in lieu of saving a kid and blaming the parents. That's a whole thing that I don't want to get into. But anyway, there was a gorilla, and it was ragdolling a kid around, and they shot the gorilla. They did the right fucking thing. And now they're because people are upset about it, the internet responds in hilarious ways by poking these upset individuals. And there are Harambe memes. The Cincinnati Zoo came out with a public statement saying, please stop making Harambe memes, please be respectful. And they've signed their death warrant. You don't ask the internet to stop doing something. It only guarantees that it's going to happen much, much more.
Yeah, that's pouring gasoline And now, on to It Can Only Happen in Florida news. Was he on bath salts? Was he not on bath salts? Police have released the 911 call made by Austin Haruff's mother, Mina Haruff, a couple of hours after the 19-year-old disappeared from the restaurant where he had been having dinner with his father, shortly before wandering to the home of a 59-year-old John Stevens and 53-year-old Michelle Michon, where he is accused of brutally murdering the beloved couple in cold blood. And when the police showed up to the scene, he was eating the man's face. When the dispatcher...
Another one?
Yes, another person eating somebody's face in Florida. Except this kid wasn't homeless. When the dispatcher initially takes the call, Mina Haruff sounds almost embarrassed, telling the woman, yes, I don't know how to do this. My son, he's kind of taken off, and I'm concerned about his own safety. He's acting a little strange. She goes on to tell the dispatcher that her son is acting delusional and that he feels immortal, like he is a superhero. When Austin was last seen leaving the restaurant, this is really strange, but he was wearing a Make America Great Again baseball hat. No word whether or not when he was eating the man's face, if he was seen wearing the hat when he was eating the man's face, but really, a Trump supporter eating a man's face, maybe on bath salts. Meanwhile, initial drug testing turned up negative for substances such as cocaine, opiates, methamphetamines, and marijuana. It still can't be ruled out whether he was under the influence of flakka or bath salts at the time of the killing. People magazine spoke to an anonymous friend claiming to have gone to high school with the teen who defended Haruff, saying that he isn't himself now and that he lost his way after graduation, starting to play with some things that he shouldn't have. You think?
Play with something?
Substances, I imagine.
Like witchcraft?
I think, yeah, that's the problem. You speak with an anonymous source. You don't know.
It was the Necronomicon.
Ah, yes.
But
such a great book.
I don't know if the...
Makes no sense, though.
No, of course, because it was written... Oh, shoot, who wrote it? Well, ultimately, H.P. Lovecraft, but the one that you can buy in Borders, I love that you can buy arcane demonic texts at... Oh! I am old and sad. There's no more Borders.
There isn't?
No, they went out of business like 4 years ago. Oh, my old man heart hurts. So much going on here. I can't believe that there's another face-eating incident in Florida. I don't know if I'm excited for the zombie apocalypse. I have been told lies in the past. So I'm feeling a little cautiously optimistic about the zombie apocalypse happening here.
Yes, but eat the bad people, not the good, innocent people.
What the hell is flakka?
I have no idea. I don't...
I take that back. I am aware of a rapper named Waka Flocka Flame, and only because he sent out...
Is he a fan of Fozzie from the Muppets?
I have no idea.
Waka waka.
But yes, Waka Flocka Flame, only because he sent out this nationwide job search for an official blunt roller.
Everybody must have an official blunt roller.
Dude, I didn't even smoke weed anymore, and I want an official blunt roller.
Speaking of what the fuck, James, I got an issue with some technology. I will call this what the fuck technology. It's 2016. Get it together. Why, when I go to grab the last few sheets of Kleenex, it takes the whole damn box? Why can't I just take the last few sheets individually? And why can't electric car windows roll down in the winter? Come on! And why can't all the clocks sync up?
Well, the Kleenex box has to do with, it's the amount of weight. So there, when you get to the end at the top of the box, you have all the weight of the paper underneath, and they're, folded on top of each other, so they kind of slide out that way. So the less weight you have, the less is there to break the friction between the folded sheets. The electric car windows rolling down in the winter, I mean, it's kind of a gentle motor, and if there's frost around that, it holds on pretty well. So the motor's not that strong, otherwise it might break the window. And why can't all the clocks sync up? Because they're mechanical clocks.
I'm sad. 4 clocks in the kitchen alone, and it's magical when they all have the same time on it for a week.
Well, life can be all doom and gloom. That's about some feel-good stories.
Yes. How about the Olympics, James? Not the human bipedal Olympics, but the kitten Olympics.
Oh, thank God, the kitten Olympics.
Madison, Wisconsin. The kitten Olympics were hosted at Westtown Veterinary Center and even included an opening ceremony where the American flag was raised by a groundhog. The cats competed in events like soccer, badminton, balance beam, and tightrope walking.
Glorious.
The event also raised money for the Dane County Friends of Ferals and Martins nationwide rescue service. Many of the kittens who competed are up for adoption. You can go to www.daneferals.org, daneferals.org. Help a kitty out, because come on, who doesn't like pussy?
Speaking of pussy,
Oh yeah.
there is a wonderful place, a related story as well, in Ann Arbor called Tiny Lions. And they work with the local ASPCA group there. So there's a place in Ann Arbor that works with the local Humane Society shelter called Tiny Lions, and it is a kitten cafe.
Oh,
It's right next door to a Big B Coffee.
you get to eat the kittens?
Not exactly.
Oh. Meow.
But there's a Big B Coffee right next door. You walk over, you get your drink, you get your latte, whatever. Walk in to Tiny Lions. I think it's, I think it was like $15 for an hour, $10 or $15, and you get to just sit with cats for an hour. They've got they had like 7 of them while we were there. And of course, everything goes to the Humane Society. This is these are all adoptable animals that are out of there. And the best part too, they are usually older and fully grown cats, which are notoriously hard to adopt from shelters. In the first, we had gone in there. And they had only been open for like a month, maybe 2. And in the short amount of time that they were open, they had already had 12 adoptions.
Oh, wow.
Out of that. They were doing phenomenal. And as far as I know, it's only the one. And I think that, a great demand needs to be made to open up Tiny Lions kitten cafes.
You should do that with dogs, too. There's a lot of dogs that need to be adopted.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's a fantastic idea. Because if I lived there, I would be dropping money just to go hang out with cats. And they were all pretty chill in there. You had some kids in there. They have cat stuff hung up on the walls and cat trees where they can climb up. And
did you sneak them some catnip?
I think you can actually they have toys there, and you can actually purchase toys to donate to the place. And yeah, they had catnip toys there.
Laser pointers.
Did they have no laser pointers because it gets them too agitated. they want some calm cats there.
I could just imagine. And do they have windows to the outside?
Yeah.
Some kid just sitting there in the window with the laser pointer.
Every day. Terrible.
Meow, meow, kitty cat.
They also did cat yoga. You could sign up for cat yoga classes, and you go in with your mat, and they have the cats up at the front of the room, and you essentially do what the cats do.
So you mimic the cats.
The cats
doing
lead
yoga.
the yoga. It was wonderful.
Interesting. And another cute story. Century-old grandmother crushes that beer bong on her 100th birthday. Young people can often forget that once upon a time, their parents and grandparents were young too, and might have been able to drink them under the table. And 1 century-old granny from Prospect Heights, Illinois, still has a few tricks up her sleeve, which she showed off at her 100th birthday party this summer. In a video shared on Facebook by one of her grandsons, the white-haired lady can be seen landing an end-of-the-game shot in a round of beer pong, matching the skills of her much younger grandkids. Trevor Pope first uploaded 2 angles of the impressive shot on July 30th, and they've since gone viral. "My grandmother is 100 years old. What a champ," he wrote, later adding, "My grandma is 100 years old. What a champ," he wrote, later adding, "She's still crushing beer pong. Shots, shots, shots." To congratulate her, one of the men brings over a bottle of vodka and offers her a swig, but the camera cuts off before the viewer sees her drink. Immediately, everybody throws up their hands to cheer, and Grandma herself puts her hands in the air and lets out a victory yell. Damn, I wish my grandmother would have made it to 100 and played beer pong. That would have been so much fun.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for next week when we hear the tragic story about how she died from alcohol poisoning.
Oh, don't ruin it. Oh.
Depending on the kind of person. Yeah, you hear stories about, Grandpa smoked 6 cigars and drank 12 beers every day and lived till he was 112.
Yeah, we thought Lemmy Kilmister from Motorhead was going to make it to an old age, and he just passed a few months ago.
How do you figure? It was Lenny Kilmister.
Hey, you ever seen the movie Airheads?
Yeah. Yeah.
What's the difference between God and Lemmy? It's a trick question, because Lemmy's God.
I'm still trying to figure out how Keith Richards is still alive.
Maybe he really does have his blood changed over every few years.
Soaking in the blood of virgins. That would be a good rock star trope, though. All the groupies.
Yeah, some people are just freaks of nature like that, and they can just go and go and go, and then some people are health nuts and keel over like in their 40s.
Oh, yeah.
It's unfortunate.
Roll of the dice.
Now on to our nation's orange god, our darling of the presidential race, Chester Cheeto, or Donald Trumpty Trump. Do the Trumpty Trump. Come on, do the Trumpty Trump. The anarchist collective that mysteriously erected unauthorized public statues of a naked Donald Trump in 5 cities across America, which are New York, LA, San Francisco, Seattle, and Cleveland, has come forward to explain themselves anonymously.
Oh my God, they're horrifying too.
The group is appropriately named In Decline. Why did they do it? Because Trump is a monster, relentlessly stalking America in a nightmare we can't seem to wake up from. In Decline wanted to erect a tribute that spoke to Trump's true nature using Hans Christian Andersen's tale of our inspiration. If you know the story, you understand it's about the emperor's fragile and delusional mental state. In Decline was also hoping to provide some of the thrust behind the hammer that currently seems to be driving the nail into his comedic and ridiculous run at the presidency. How did you install these without anybody stopping you? Each member of the installation team wore hard hats and bright neon construction vests. Nobody looked twice at them. Installations took less than 5 minutes in each city. The one in Union Square was done on top of a police station. How did you decide on what cities and locations? Cleveland was based on the fact that it's Ginger's hometown. He currently resides in Las Vegas. Who is Ginger? Ginger is one of the members of In Decline. The other cities were chosen based on 2 requirements. The first, that In Decline as a collective had a strong and willing support base available to work on the project, and the second being that these cities, more so the areas we chose, were all vehemently anti-Trump. We hope this would lengthen the shelf life of these kamikaze installations a little. Do you think art can stop Trump or change anyone's opinions? Trump will stop Trump. He is his own worst enemy. All we can do is inspire those around us who feel the same way about his existence and gently remind his mentally malleable fanatics that an educated and passionate America is going to stand in the way of this joke of a political candidate. We're better than that, and in the coming weeks, this will most likely all be over if we continue the fight. The statues cost about $6,000 to create. What's next? Indecline will just sit back and wait for America to do something disgraceful and then go paint a mural or make a film. That's typically how we roll. In New York City, the Trump statue caused quite a stir in Union Square for several hours before being removed by the New York City Parks Department, which issued the following statement. New York parks stand firmly against any unpermitted erection in city parks, no matter how small. The statue didn't do him justice either.
Was that a deliberate wording? 'Cause
it's in quote marks. And the statue didn't do him justice either because he had this cute little mushroom cap with his dick. Maybe he's a grower and not a shower. Because I am a grower. You know I'm not a shower. My dick don't show up until I'm with my girl and it's time to bone her. Alright, ladies and germs, election season is upon us, so Bo Hicka, bend over, here it comes again. Trump apologizes for his hurtful remarks that he's been making. Oh, you're sorry? Maybe you should try apologizing to the mirror every morning. And then he went on to keep being the same asshat he was before. Is Trump really running for president, or is he really getting ready to launch a new right-wing news network to rival Fox News? Because recently he's brought on serial pervert Roger Ailes, formerly of Fox News, on board his campaign and hired Steve Bannon, former executive chairman of Breitbart News, as his CEO. Does this conspiracy speculation have legs, or is he hedging his bets in case he loses?
Now, here's the thing. This is how I know no matter what we do, we are entirely fucked. Because, coming from yournewswire.com, Hillary Clinton vows to shut down alternative media. Hillary Clinton has threatened to shut down alternative news websites in America if she is elected president of the United States. Hillary's campaign sent a threatening email to fundraisers saying that independent conservative news outlet Breitbart News has, quote, no right to exist, and hinted that they were making plans to shut it down forever once Hillary is elected. DailyCaller.com reports, we've had a conservative media in this country for a while, says the email, sent Thursday and signed by Deputy Commissions Director Christina Reynolds. Reynolds' acknowledgement that the regular conservative media has a, quote, right to exist, though is used to contrast it with Breitbart, which apparently has no such right. Again, quote from the email, Breitbart is something different. They make Fox News look like a Democratic Party pamphlet. They're a different breed altogether, not just conservative, but radical, bigoted, anti-Muslim, anti-Semitic conspiracy peddlers who have never been and never should be allowed anywhere near the levers of power in this country. Now, I'll read Breitbart News. And yeah, they get along on one side, pretty far to one side, but these are meaningless words. This is the radical, bigoted, anti-Muslim. This is ridiculous. I don't care if it's the KKK's newsletter. They have a fucking right to exist. They have absolutely every right to publish and print anything short of libel laws, of course. But that is ridiculous, and that is goddamn scary. That's what we do. What was our last show?
About the mediopoly.
Alternative media. We're in this.
Yes, and several people that we are fans are in this. And, if they take Breitbart down, that's one domino. And then all of them fall. And
Who's next?
And this takes it further than what Trump was talking about. Trump was talking about suing people for talking about Clinton's talking about outright getting rid of people. At least her spokesperson is.
Yeah.
And this is America. This ain't Germany. We have the First Amendment.
Well, and she goes on to say that, quote, "We have to beat these people, but I want to beat them so decisively that their kind never rises again." That is, their kind that differs too much from your political opinion. You don't have a problem of people with different politics, just as long as they're not too different from your own. Fuck you.
What are they going to do? Show up and arrest them like they did Lenny Bruce?
You know what? You know what? Leave this in. What's her name? Where is she? Christina Reynolds. You are a fascist cunt. I hope you fucking get cancer and die. Quickly. I will grant you the quick death. Fuck you.
See you next Tuesday.
Oh, speaking of which, one of the guys that was one of the supposed whistleblowers for the DNC email leaks is dead.
Julian Assange's guy, right?
Yeah.
He was a guy who was he was his inside mole. And then Julian Assange came out and said that was one of my guys.
Yep.
And
mysterious deaths following the Clintons again. Who would have guessed it?
They're Teflon, though.
Fuck them. Just...
Yeah, Trump is the devil. She's an angel.
We're fucked. Like, the world is on fire. This is the thing that is pushing me deeper into my nihilism. It's just, the world's on fire. The only reasonable responses are stoic resignation to your fate or mad, insane laughter.
Well, you know what scares me about this election coming up is there's people threatening to riot if Trump gets the election stolen from him, but if he wins, people are going to riot. It's lose-lose with that.
Is this going to turn into, like the LA riots? When was that?
That was back in the early 90s when Rodney King was beaten by the police.
Yeah, and
they took that truck driver out and beat the crap out of him.
Well, then, even before that, in the Detroit riots in
the 60s.
In the 60s. What's another historical parallel? Oh, yeah, the fucking Civil War. This is... I have friends in Canada, and I'm kind of glad that I do.
Yes, I have family in Canada.
Do you have an exit strategy?
Detroit River swim. Just, keep an eye out for the Coast Guard. They only come by once in a while.
Yeah.
I heard Costa Rica's nice for expats.
Oh, yeah.
And it's cheap. And anybody else suffering from election fatigue, because this election is an insult to our intelligence, especially with all these bull jive candidates that they're trying to shove down our throats, and those two are great examples. And we also have Gary Johnson, who I think's a fake-ass libertarian.
I still have hope for him.
He says some good things.
He does, and he's not nearly as insane as the two party front runners.
Although he did say Hillary Clinton's a nice person. He's for the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which is NAFTA on steroids.
But I don't see him spouting off about suing journalists or flat out shutting them down.
True.
I'll take that. Is that the plan? Is that the plan to get the TPP through?
What's that?
To make somebody, a third party like Gary Johnson look, to make the two leading candidates so unpalatable that a third party has to be chosen, but a third party that is amenable to the globalist, socialist, New World Order. That's what's happening. That's what's happening, and that's why they're putting fluoride in the water and turning the frogs gay.
He's a wolf in sheep's clothing.
I think they're all wolves, honestly.
Yeah. Jill Stein, the Green Party candidate's alright. She's pretty much, a megaphone activist, but She's
Nobody
a doctor?
Nobody knows who she is.
Yeah.
And even the people that do from she never get any right side votes. I tried to make myself feel better with humor, but I failed.
Yeah, and the only way
Alex Jones can't even make me smile right now.
No, maybe Alex Jones and Cenk Uygur mud wrestling.
Oh, I'm done.
James has left the building, ladies and gentlemen. Now a little word from Thomas Paine's Common Sense. We have every opportunity and every encouragement before us to form the noblest, purest constitution on the face of the earth. We have it in our power to begin the world over again. Man, we were off to such a great start. We started off all right with the first president being selected, his horse teeth and all, but he left office. He gave the people a warning about political parties, and this is from George Washington's farewell address, September 17th, 1796. He warned us about the two-party system. However political parties may now and then answer popular ends, they are likely in the course of time and things to become potent engines by which cunning, ambitious, and unprincipled men will be enabled to subvert the power of the people and to assert for themselves the reins of government, destroying afterwards the very engines which have lifted them to unjust dominion. The spirit of the party opens the door to foreign influence and corruption, which finds a facilitated access to the government itself through the channels of party passions. And now one from John Adams, another one of the founding fathers. There is nothing which I dread so much as a division of the Republic into two great parties, each arranged under its leader and concerting measures in opposition to each other. This, in my humble apprehension, is to be dreaded as the greatest political evil under our Constitution. Now, why did I quote the Founding Fathers on the subject of political parties? Because they're a part of the problem. That which divides us destroys us. Why does there always have to be a good and an evil, a black and a white, a yin and yang, opposing factions in a country that is supposed to be united?
Now, here's the thing with it. Don't forget, too, Washington also, in that final address, talked about the U.S. not, getting embroiled in Europe's affairs and going abroad seeking dragons to slay. And this was a line that was repeated, usually around the 4th of July. Washington's last address was read out as part of the pageantry. And good old Teddy Roosevelt and his desire to go to war with Spain kind of put an end to the American isolationism, and pushed us out into a world, a world power, as it were. And I have, going back to the parties, I have differing opinions on them. That they do have their place in that, people with, the same ideas, the same way of thinking will always band together and group together. That is a natural thing. We do that naturally. We think naturally in groups like this. But it's the problem of the amount of power that they seize and the amount of influence over others that becomes a serious issue. Like the two parties closing debates off to Libertarian and Green Party candidates, to the amount of money that must be raised and to compete against this. It's the monolithic nature of the Republicrats that is one of the biggest dangers.
And the last time a third-party candidate actually made it into the debates was 92, and it was Ross Perot, and it was at the insistence of George H.W. Bush and Bill Clinton that he went in the debates.
Bush and Clinton insisted that he go in.
Yes. And he ended up dropping out of the race briefly because there was alleged threats that they were going to show up at his daughter's wedding and they were going to make a scene and that they were going to doctor or come up with like bad photos of her.
Interesting.
And he ended up getting back in the race, I believe in September, and he got 19% of the popular vote still. He would have had a chance if he didn't drop out. From 1976 to 1984, the League of Women Voters had control of the debates, but then they withdrew. In 1988, the League of Women Voters withdrew its sponsorship of the presidential debates after George H.W. Bush and Michael Dukakis campaign secretly agreed to a memorandum of understanding that would decide which candidates could participate in the debates, which individuals would be panelists and therefore able to ask questions, and the height of the podiums. The League rejected the demands and released a statement saying that they were withdrawing support for the debates because the demands of the two campaign organizations would perpetrate a fraud on the American voter. Shortly after that, the Commission of Presidential Debates took over, and since pretty much 1987 all the way up to the 2012 debates, the Commission of Presidential Debates has been in charge. At a 1987 press conference announcing the commission's creation, some man named Fahrenkopf, I do not know his first name offhand, said that the commission was not likely to include third-party candidates in debates. And Paul G. Kirk, Democratic National Chairman, said he personally believed that they should be excluded from the debates. In 2000, the fix was in because the CPD established a rule that for a candidate to be included in the national debates, he or she must garner at least 15% across 5 national polls. Between 1988 and 1996 in the debates, the CPD used a multi-factor set of criteria designed to identify the leading candidates. The criteria was developed based on the work of an advisory panel of distinguished Americans. Most of the individuals were not affiliated with any party, and they were either academics or members of the media.
See, but that's the problem. Is both of those, affiliated with academics and the media, tend to be left-leaning liberals, firmly entrenched within at least the Democratic Party. This was the ejection that I had, not to the parties themselves, but the power that they wield when there's just two of them like that. They can. It's an oligarchy. They collude together to push out all others. Now, would it be a better system, something like the parliamentary system, where you have 6 or 7 different parties, and they have to actually work together and
Form a coalition.
Yeah, form a coalition. I don't know, maybe, but this, and we have had other parties in the past. I've said this. I think this the third show, and at least the third time I've said it. The biggest lie ever told to the American public is that this is a two-party system. The way that we elect presidents, the way that, the way that the public is told that we elect presidents is not how it happens. You're not really taught this in school, except maybe in passing if you have a very good teacher, or you have to actually look it up and read it yourself. But the primary and caucuses are not spelled out anywhere in the United States Constitution.
So, if the primaries are not in the Constitution, do you know when they were first started and why? Was it to basically try to make the two-party system seem legit, and that's like all we have?
Well, I know before We haven't always had primaries and caucuses. I mean, they were at one point just backroom deals. The party chose its candidate. Yeah. When did the first primaries truly come about the way that we have them now? Which the primaries by themselves, they're still not a democratic institution anyway, because guess what? They can still vote for whoever the hell they want anyway. So, I'm sorry.
And I know when the country first started, we basically had the Federalists and the Anti-Federalists.
Well, but that wasn't necessarily two parties. It
wasn't parties. It was factions. Where one group wanted a more centralized federal type government, and the other group wanted states to basically control their own areas.
Yeah, and there was a problem too because they had been working under the Articles of Confederation before, and with the Farmers' Rebellion, that happened. Shoot, I'm actually kind of missing it. I remember that's a thing that happened, and that it caused the lack of ability to respond from Philadelphia was the seat of the government at the time. The lack of their ability to respond became a problem. They realized that the Articles of Confederation weren't exactly going to work like that, and it moved towards the Constitution, the Bill of Rights that we have now, consolidating and spelling out the powers of the Congress, the Senate, the executive branch, and the judicial, and even how those elections are supposed to work as well. But still, no speaking to primaries or how to elect candidates.
That's more of a modern invention.
Yeah, and before it was you had basically your friends would decide amongst themselves, hey, I think John Adams would make a fantastic president. John Adams, we want you to be president. Oh, no. You don't want me to be president. That would be a terrible idea. I'd make it. No. Yes, you would. You can do this, and this. And then their friends would go out and campaign on their behalf. It was unseemly for a person to campaign for themselves. This going back to an old Roman tradition, even just showing the roots of, even the behavior that we expect from our politicians. Still going back to a very ancient source, that someone would insist that you take on the presidency or the consulship. And you say, no, I couldn't possibly do this. I'm not the man for this. No, yes, you should. And then you reluctantly accept. Whether if you're very cynical about it, then, well, of course, they want it, but they have to behave this way. I think that there's some good in even pretending to reluctantly accept.
It seems
the
more
position.
humble,
Yeah,
as compared to the ego trips we have nowadays. But they even, back in older elections, would have duels with guns.
Oh, no. The duels were never meant to settle elections by any means. These were shows of courage, and there was this whole idea of honor. Dueling had been banned for a long time, I know. Famously, Aaron Burr and Alexander Hamilton had a pistol duel. Burr was the vice president at the time, and Hamilton was the former Secretary of the Treasury. And he was also a journalist, or he wrote for a newspaper. He was slamming Aaron Burr, just highly critical of him. And Aaron Burr wanted, he considered this a slight on his honor. And dueling was in the midst of being outlawed at the time, so this was a big deal. And as a historical note, dueling with pistols isn't like the Old West corral gunfights or the guns that we have today, these were a lead ball and a muzzle shot. So when it came out of the barrel, the farther away you were, the less likely you were to get hit. I mean, so there was still a chance. So dueling with pistols was kind of, again, just a show of courage. Like, I might get hit at this distance, but I'm able to stand up to it. Well, Alexander Hamilton was fatally shot and died the next day. I think he went into his side. But it was a stand up to this courage. Even long after Andrew Jackson was, he fought everybody. Yes, I'm a supporter of taking Andrew Jackson off of the $20 bill. The man was a genocidal maniac. But he fought everybody. He was involved in several duels, both swords and pistols. But it was never looked at as an appropriate way of dealing with political issues. Like I said, even early on, between Burr and Hamilton, it was big news that this happened.
Can you imagine if we had duels nowadays? Out of the 4 leading candidates, Trump, Clinton the criminal,
None of them have the courage.
Gary Johnson and Jill Stein.
None of them have the courage.
I think Hillary Clinton would destroy them.
Trial by combat. I demand trial by combat.
Yeah. Trump would be sitting there talking with his little hands, trying to get his gun and talk about how he's going to do that. And Hillary Clinton would have shot all 3 of them by the time he's done talking.
No, Hillary Clinton would have paid her aide to shoot all 3 of them.
Snipers on the roof. Yeah, I think that there were third parties kind of died out by time the 20th century rolled around. The last third major party was the Progressives. Teddy Roosevelt when he broke away from the Republicans.
Well, yeah, he formed the Bull Moose Party, and I think he ended up losing it when he ran into the Bull Moose too.
The main difference between the Republicans and the Democrats, a common saying, is that the Republicans want to tell you what to do in your bedroom, and the Democrats want to tell you what to do with your business.
Yeah, that makes a considerable amount of sense. And that's why I just say the Republicrats. They are one and the same to me.
Yeah, the Democrats and
the Democrats
and
Republicans.
Republicans, yes, as Jesse Ventura says.
Oh, no, you did not just tell me that I agree with Jesse Ventura.
That's an actual book he wrote.
I know. Oh.
Just think of Jesse
I
Ventura.
don't feel good about myself anymore.
Is the flashy 80s wrestler. That Jesse Ventura.
He is one of the few that's still alive, so I got to give him that credit.
He made it, and his offspring Tyrell Ventura is doing very well in the alternative media while they last.
Yeah, until Hillary gets her hands on it.
And I think the biggest con job in history is that the government making the people think that they represent them. Because, come on.
No, they have represented. They have represented business and
themselves,
foreign banks since the Federal Reserve Act, since corporations became people.
Oh, God.
And since it was reaffirmed that money is speech.
Yeah, and a lot of them, they're the permanent political class and the permanent government, the Washington establishment. A lot of them will go on to either get cushy jobs working for lobbying firms when they get out of office. A lot of their relatives get cushy jobs working in lobbying firms, or they'll pass legislation for particular businesses and then go work for those businesses.
If they're allowed to. Yes, I know that there are some...
There's a 2-year period where Obama said that he would shut the door permanently, the revolving door.
Oh, because that's happened.
Yeah.
Just like he was supposed to shut Guantanamo Bay, too.
There's a 2-year period, but there's other ways where politicians can get rich off their office. This was infamous during the Health Care Act when they were trying to get past that through, where they would basically gamble on the stock market on different various insurance agencies and other aspects of the healthcare industry, which is insider trading. If one of their staff members did it, they would get in trouble. But they are basically exempt. They follow different rules than us.
Oh, yeah, of course they do. I mean, it's written into their own laws that the laws that they pass, they don't have to follow.
And and it's like they follow a different set of rules than normal folk.
They're the new patrician class. And rant time, historical parallel. We've had our Civil War, which was geographic in nature. The North and South, and the particular states, and you had, a geographic lines of battle. And I had been discussing it before with another friend of ours, whether or not, what a civil war, finger quotes, would look like. Because like you're saying, if Trump wins, the left is going to riot. If Hillary wins, the right's going to riot. What is that going to look like? In Rome, there was basically a war between the patricians, the upper class, and the plebeians, the common folk, and this had a lot to do with basically the distribution of wealth and the hoarding of wealth and power. You had to be born to a patrician family to ever have a hope of getting into the governmental system, even though Rome was a republic. Had its own democratic values and ways of running things, but you had these incredibly rich and old powerful families passing laws, making decisions for an unrepresented common class, which vastly outnumbered them. And they took up clubs and started running into the street and just rioting, and attacking specifically the patrician classes. They knew where they lived. They knew who they were. Rome was, it was a single city. But this did turn some very interesting and useful positions for the plebeians. You had the administration, the institution of the tribune of the plebs, which had near consul-like powers, essentially like the president. But this is where the veto comes from. Veto, veto from Latin, is I forbid it. And he could take anything passed by the patrician senate and say, I forbid it. And his word was the law on that. That could not be passed. And it was to keep the powers of the patricians in check. But he was also only elected for 1 year at a time. And nobody had, except the Gracchi brothers, which that'll be a discussion later, I'm sure, violated that. Nobody ever ran again, because that was such a huge amount of power for any one individual to have. And I'm kind of wondering if enough people know where to point their anger, if that's what this revolution might look like.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because Thomas Jefferson wrote to James Madison back in January 30th, 1787, from Paris, "A little rebellion now and then is a good thing, and as necessary in the political world as storms in the physical."
And don't forget, the tree of liberty must occasionally be fed by the blood of tyrants.
In the words of Professor Griff, formerly a Public Enemy, revolution is not an event, it's a process.
Interesting.
And people are slowly waking up that's why Trump is getting some of the support that he's getting, is people want somebody who is an outsider, supposed outsider, to shake the system up. And that's Bernie Sanders was popular at first because he wasn't saying the same things and he seemed to be representing the people.
Well, once again, Bernie Sanders is not a rich, filthy, wealthy trader like Trump and Clinton and hell, even Johnson, like they are. And I think that's why his message bit a lot deeper into really everyone. But the Clintons, with all of their Saudi money and all of just the tendrils into the political system, just Machiavellian schemings, pushed him out completely illegally, reported on completely illegally. It's unthinkable, and it's truly beyond me how she's still in this race. How she is not even in jail or brought up on charges for this level of conspiracy openly.
It's like they're shoving it in our face. I have a feeling that they have so much dirt on so many people that is why nothing's being done. It's like, well, you bring that up, we're going to bring this up on you. And
cowards, every one of them.
Look at all the alleged dead bodies that turn up.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe people fear for their lives.
People put far too much emphasis on their lives.
No, as far as the people.
No, I'm sorry. No.
As far as
how do you think John Hancock felt when he put his name massively and clearly upon the Declaration of Independence? He knew he was putting his name on a document that would get him hanged. We need people that care less about their lives than they do the truth. That's the problem. And that's the only thing that's going to break that kind of power, is when people like Julian Assange, like
Edward Snowden,
Chelsea
Manning,
who care less about their lives to bring the actual truth out.
Those are needles in a haystack.
They are needles, and that's the problem.
Well, a lot of Americans right now suffer from cognitive dissonance.
In what way? Well, I can name you in many different... In what way do you speak of?
I think a lot of people fear that if they speak up, A, they're going to get ridiculed, B, they're going to get in trouble, C, they might get killed, D, nothing's going to happen. If you talk to a lot of people one-on-one, they feel the same way we do. But they won't admit it in front of the other people because they don't realize the other people feel the same way. It's a bigger percentage than most people think and give credit for. Most people know the game is rigged. Most people know that these people are scum on top, and that, we are fighting all these unjust wars, and that the economy really isn't what they claim it is.
No, not at all.
It's waiting to collapse. They got the fingers in the dam, and they're running out of fingers. And a lot of people know. Some people they don't have time to pay attention. They're busy raising families, busy working jobs. They get a headache from this stuff just trying to digest it.
And again, I understand that too. I have paid more attention. I've always paid attention to the political process, but even more so in doing this show. And it's driven me nuts, some of this stuff.
The deeper you dig, it's like, oh my God, this hole leads to more dirt, and then you got to dig deeper, and next thing you know, you think you're halfway to China, but you're only 10 feet down. It's doing research is confusing, and it just leads to more research and digging up more bodies, and it just goes on and on and on, and it's like you need a PhD to figure half of this stuff out, especially when it comes to government. They purposely write things in legalese so us common folks don't understand it.
Oh yeah, it's well, there's Latin, and then there's vulgar Latin. There's what I don't know, of the 4 people that listen to our show, if you've ever tried to read Cicero, and I'm sure I'm the only one who has, and then tried to read something out of like the vulgar Latin Bible, they're totally different forms of writing. One is well written once you know the pattern of it, but it is obtuse. So it's very much like the difference between reading a legal contract or reading some of the bills that do get passed through our system and reading USA Today article. The language of law is a different English than our mere surf babblings.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, a lot of these politicians, I think, are actually in bed together, and then they're representing themselves or representing the gold collar workers, the big businesses. And maybe it's like professional wrestling where they get out there in the ring and they fight each other, and then after the show they go out and have drinks together. And it's like Bill Hicks had this saying where, I think the puppet on the right shares my beliefs. I think the puppet on the left is more to my liking. Hey, wait a minute. There's one guy holding up both puppets.
Yep.
And I mean, I think that speaks to the majority of the people who have been part of the Washington establishment for years. Not all of them. There's some decent ones down there.
But again, are they the decent ones that value their lives more than they do the rest of us? More than they do actual democracy and truth? I'm finding less and less respect for, quote, the good ones.
Well, politics is show business for ugly people. Now imagine if these people had to live by the same rules and laws that we do. They'd be sweating like R. Kelly at a Girl Scout meeting.
I don't think you could say that.
Yes, I can. We could get in depth into talking about political advertising and PACs and super PACs, but that's such a complex issue.
Yeah, that's a different show.
But did you know that it's illegal to lie in commercial advertising, but it's perfectly legal to lie in political advertising?
Of course it is. Politics is nothing but lying.
And there's a really good writer out there named Greg Palast, a really good investigative journalist, and he said this on the Koch brothers, who also funded Bill Clinton. If people aren't familiar with the Koch brothers, KOCH, they fund both sides. And he said they don't bet on horses, they own the racetrack. And these people, they live by a different set of rules than us regular folks. And Luxembourg's long-serving Prime Minister, Jean-Claude Juncker, who is now president of the European Commission, which is the EU. They don't have an actual president, but he's one of their heads.
They have a cabinet that makes horribly undemocratic and unrepresentative decisions for the whole of Europe, which is why Britain left. God save the Queen. They made the right decision. Hopefully they hurry up and do it.
And he summed it up, and I think this sums up politics all over the world. Not every country, but a good chunk of them. We all know what to do, but we don't know how to get reelected once we do it.
again, more concern for your personal well-being, whether it's your life or whether it's your political career, your political life. We need brave people. We need people who aren't afraid to make the hard decisions, the right decisions, but the unpopular ones.
And we need more people like that in office. And change starts at home. Local elections matter. State elections matter. Getting the right people in Congress matters.
Yeah, absolutely.
And 2012 sparked the Ron Paul revolution, where we've seen more libertarians, unfortunately, running as Republicans. But
it's the only way they could get in.
That's what he had to do. And Bernie Sanders is voicing the same thing, trying to get people to run for office.
Maybe this election will destroy them both. Maybe here's my nihilist optimism coming in. Maybe this election will either see the rise of other parties to real prominence, or it will see the crash and the devastation of one or both of the Republicrats.
I hope so. And this is the part of the show where I want to know, if you were president, what would you do to change the game? What would you do differently than current president and past presidents have done? I
am age eligible to run to hold the office of president by 2020.
2020.
2020. Yep.
When Kanye West is running.
Yep. I've upped it. At one point it was I make 2 campaign promises. Now I will make 3. Campaign promise number 1, I will not introduce any legislation. I go into office having absolutely no agenda. I don't want to get anything passed. I go in with no agenda whatsoever. Campaign promise number 2, I will sign into law any bill that comes across my desk, passed by both the House and the Senate. Any bill at all. Oh, that bill just opened up all of Texas to be legally strip-mined and fracked. Talk to your representative. Click, scribble, done. I'm putting your Congress back to work. How am I going to do that? By doing fuck all myself. Third campaign promise. Who are my cabinet members? My cabinet members will be people that I am certain are dumber than I am. So, what's going to happen is any sniff or whiff of controversy or failure of any kind, they will be immediately removed. Oh, you want to start a war with Iran? By being an idiot in your negotiations? You're fired. Get out. Oh, the VA is spending billions of dollars and making veterans wait 6 to 9 months for a checkup or a badly needed surgery. You're fired. Next. Those are my campaign promises. Immediate firings for controversy. No personal agenda of my own, and signing into law. No vetoes, no pocket vetoes, no outright vetoes. Every bill gets signed. Ooh, I thought of another fun one. I'm adding my 4th one. Every Sunday, a fireside chat, and I will read off the new laws and the names of every senator and congressman that passed it.
Usually got to go online and look that up.
Nope. Sunday nights will be spent with me. Oh, here's the bill that here's the bill that made it legal to ship in infant formula from China and not have to label the packaging. Oh, why, Debbie Stabenow, I see you have your name on this.
Yes, and you could also direct them to their websites and give out their phone numbers.
Oh, yes.
Because, they respond when you call them and en masse.
Yeah.
And then they will change their mind really fast when their people leave them long, angry voicemails.
Putting Congress back to work.
Yes.
Making Congress work so I don't have to. What would you do as president?
Well, as you know, I'm not a big fan of the two-party system. In fact, I'm not really a fan of any political party at the moment. I think just swearing allegiance to one party can put blinders on you to all the other choices.
Echo chamber.
And when you dig deeper into your own party, you'll likely find many in your own party are not even looking out for your interest, especially when you follow the money trail, like who funds the campaigns and how they vote and who benefits. If I had it my way, I would eliminate political parties, eliminate corporate funding of campaigns, make people run on their ideals, and when they run for their next term, they have to run on their voting record, which is side by side with a comparison of their ideals. I would also initiate term limits for everybody in politics, Congress, Senate, the appointed Supreme Court government appointees, example, head of the FDA, head of the CIA, head of the EPA, and this would eliminate some of the corruption. I would shut the revolving door.
How the hell does a governing body have a 13% approval rating and a 98% incumbency?
Cognitive dissonance.
Gerrymandering.
Yes, there's that too. But I
will
would
just leave all my appointments blank. Like I will appoint nobody. Who's your cabinet? I don't know. I have a short list going.
Yeah.
Talk to me next week.
Yeah, I would basically make everybody stay in Washington, and we need to fix this. We need to go back to the Constitution. None of you are going home, and you all get paid minimum wage.
You be my VP, because VP makes you president of the Congress, and that way you can get shit done there.
And I would bring all of our troops home and put them to work here, rebuilding our towns and cities, rebuilding our infrastructure.
Oh, fucking infrastructure. Oh,
and
God.
It's supposed to be national defense, not national offense, as Gary Johnson says.
Yeah.
And I would talk to any president who would talk to me. What can we do to make this better?
But you'd be colluding with the enemy then.
I don't have no enemies. Change starts at home, and we need everybody here. We need to fix home first. And we need to be that beacon, that bright, shining light that this country is known for. The land of the free, home of the brave. Everybody...
Very Reagan of you. Shining city on a hill and all.
We'll just make an example that the rest of the world goes, you know what? I want to be like USA. That's the way we used to be. And just make an example. And if we would cut the defense and take all that money and spend it at home and have the Treasury print the money. We don't need the Federal Reserve.
That's what got Kennedy killed. Careful.
Yeah.
Careful.
Yeah, and the Lincoln Greenbacks. I'd get in a lot of trouble if I was president, but...
See, here's the best part. I wouldn't. Why? I didn't do anything. Your representatives did.
You would be the passive, I'd be the aggressive.
See, I would make a good vice president for you, because I would show up to all the events that you didn't want to go to, smile and wave, say some dumb shit, and check your pulse in the morning.
Oh. Just make sure I don't choke on any pretzels. Oh, wait. I don't. I'm gluten-free. Can't have any pretzels. I think our options are better than the turd sandwich that's running right now. And yours is very... you'd be putting them to work. There'd be a whole lot of people just shaking and twitching. And what do we do? What do we do? What do we do? Oh, my God, I'm confused. Where I would probably just piss them all off.
Yeah.
And, you know, this country is due for a change. It's due for a revolution. And it's easier to be entertained than informed. Because we're at a pivotal point in this country's history where we need change. There are those who want change, those who demand change, and those who don't care about change except the change in their pockets. If we don't make a drastic change in our political system, we won't have a pot to pee in or a window to throw it out of. It's time for people to stop focusing their energy and power towards each other and to start focusing it forward. It's time to start thinking for yourself, looking at every side of the story without bias, and draw your own conclusions. Be an individual, flock away from the herd mentality. Never fall into one way of thinking. It's a trap. Shelterism breeds ignorance. Where ignorance starts, progress stops. You can choose to stand up or you can choose to stand down. The people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are usually the ones that do. Be bold and take the fight to anything and anyone in your way. If they don't see you coming, make sure they see you passing by. I'm Alex. This is James. This is Beyond Normal Views. Thank you for listening.
Thank you again for listening to us scream into a microphone for the past hour or so. We really do appreciate the small audience that we have right now. We know you by name. We're coming for you. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, YouTube, Podmatic. Is that where we're uploading our stuff right now?
Yes.
We're up on Podmatic there. There is a new site coming up. I'm dropping a bombshell on Alex right now. The skeptic community on YouTube has been talking about moving to a new site because of all of the YouTube issues that have been going on with regards to free speech, especially ad revenue, false flagging, and all of the nonsense that's been going on. So they're looking at announcing that in a couple of months. We will be setting up an account on that as well. We want to get in to the front of that because it might be the next best, the new big thing. So we'll announce that when we have that, and we'll let you know to follow us there too.
Again, thank you for listening, and the government keeps us safe. Go back to sleep.
Good night. Don't let the existential dread of the meaningless of existence bite.